Good evening. I'd like to call this Wednesday, July 5th, 2017 meeting of Middletown City Council to order. If you please stand and join me in moment of meditation and the pledge of allegiance to the flag. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Gank, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bronston.
Here.
Mr. Bohannon.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Picard. Mayor Mulligan.
Here. All right, entertain a motion to excuse Mr. Picard. I know he's away.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Ms. Gank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Ms. Bronston.
Yes.
All right, first up, we have a public hearing this evening regarding the Liberty Township Joint Economic Development District. Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. The JED, Joint Economic Development District, was created in 2006 as an intergovernmental organization between Liberty Township, the city of Mason, Ohio, and the city of Middletown. We collect income tax for the JED and then distribute a percentage of the net revenues back to Liberty Township, Mason, and the city of Middletown. We also receive 5% of the gross revenue as a service fee for collecting the taxes on behalf of the JED. Last year, we received $136,597 for our participation in the JED. The agreement before you this evening on a first reading, and the subject of this public hearing is a request to add 7 additional parcels to the JED area in Liberty Township. The net effect of this later on is, as those parcels are developed, that will add income tax and therefore revenues to all 3 entities.
Yeah, very good. Any questions from council? All right, I'll go ahead and declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the proposed Liberty Township Joint Economic Development District expansion? Anyone to speak in favor of? Anyone to speak in opposition to the proposed Liberty Township Joint Economic Development District? No one to speak in opposition to? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and move on to our second one regarding the 2018 tax budget.
Your Honor, this is a second public hearing. The annual tax budget has 2 purposes. The first one is it gives the 2018 beginning cash balances and projected revenues for each fund in the budget, and therefore becomes the estimated 2018 revenues for the city, resources rather, for the city. It also supports the need for our annual property tax levy. The schedule at this time is that you would pass and receive, have a public hearing, receive and file and adopt by motion the budget. It will be delivered tomorrow to Butler and Warren County auditors. This is required by Ohio Revised Code, and we do this each year.
Any questions from council for Mr. Atkins? All right, with that, I'll declare the public hearing on the 2018 tax budget open. Is there anyone to speak in favor of the proposed 2018 tax budget? Anyone to speak in favor of? Is there anyone to speak in opposition to the proposed 2018 tax budget? Anyone in opposition to? Okay, hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and we'll move on to our city manager reports. Mr. Atkins?
Put me up first. That's all right. Can you bump me forward? Thank you.
Okay.
Thought we'd open since we just got done with the 4th of July and actually moved this meeting to tonight as a result of the holiday yesterday. Wanted to give a quick recap of the 4th of July events. It started Monday night with the food and drink vendors and kids zone at Smith Park. Broad Street Bash lined up a great evening of live music for everyone as well, including the Romantics. They had came into town early, ate at Gracie's, had very complimentary things to say about Middletown, and put on a great show Monday night. Team Fast Tracks provided a jump in at dusk with fireworks, which always seems a little crazy to me that you would strap fireworks to your legs and shoot them off. But they like it, and it was fun to watch. And then, of course, we had the Atrium Medical Center fireworks celebrating the 100 years of Atrium Medical Center in the city of Middletown. Pleased to report there were no incidents or public safety issues. Everyone was well behaved. Each year we get a little smarter about how we do things. We move people a little better. We had more vendors, so Mayor and I were talking, other than the ice cream, everybody had a pretty short line going through, and we got people in and out pretty well with the transit buses, and so it was a great night. Tuesday, July 4th, As council was well aware, we had the Middletown Independence Day Parade at 10 a.m., starting at Woodside Cemetery and running to Smith Park. Since I get to be city manager and put the slides together, if you look at the bottom second one in, that's me and my brother who's in from LA and one of my grandsons. And if you look up to the right, top right, second one in, the young lady there in the red, white, and blue is one of my granddaughters. And they had a great time at the parade, gathered up all the candy they could possibly grab and ate as much of it and stuffed it in their mouth as quickly as they could. And so the parade was a great success. Stopped by the Go Fish, Go Hunt second annual fishing derby. Later that day, they had 270 children registered for the event. They had prizes being given out throughout the derby. And I'm also pleased, they've been open for a while, but I do want to mention their new location at 601 Verity Parkway. They've opened a second location here in Middletown. So wanted to give a quick thank you to all of our event sponsors for the July 4th activities. Atrium Medical Center, Premier Health, Broad Street Bash, the Middletown Community Foundation, Team Fast Tracks, Go Fish, Go Hunt, Middletown Visitors Bureau, Magellan Aerospace, Sandy's Towing, Middletown Ford, First Financial, Women of the Moose, American Savings, and Workforce Outdoor Power Sales and Service. All of them contributed money to the event, and we certainly appreciate everything that they all did. Also want to give special commendation to Lieutenant Cunningham, who oversaw preparation of this event operationally. Flat out did a fantastic job. We had a committee of several different departments that he worked with. We had a ton of city employees walking throughout the event. We had police, fire, public works, people at the VIP tents, people picking up trash. It was just a great turnout by city employees and a great 2 days of events, and I'm very proud of my staff. So I want them to know that. Go ahead, please. I talked to you just briefly at the last council meeting about the COPS grant. We are still working on that. The deadline to submit an application is Monday. Chief and Jake and I have been crunching numbers and then re-crunching numbers and moving things around and crunching numbers. We still don't have something that we feel we're ready to support and send to you. We will keep you in the loop throughout tomorrow and Friday and even up to Monday at close of business. We would like to do this if there's a fiscally responsible way to do this, to put a few more police officers on the street. Have to get the numbers work, the budget has to work. So we'll continue to work on that and keep you in the loop, and Chief Muterspaw and I are working on that. One of the other things, and we've talked about a little bit about our priorities for 2018. I'm a big person about planning and trying to figure out what it is you're trying to do. I know that deferred maintenance is one of our mid to lower priorities. However, when we've talked about the pavers that are out back, we know we have a fairly significant, they're 40 plus years old, they're starting to break and crack. When somebody looked at it a couple of years ago when I was in community revitalization, they said, yeah, it's at least $750,000 to fix that. And so I think what I would like to do, especially if revenues stay up another month or two, is put out an RFP and try to start designing what this remake of our plaza would look like, and see if we can get some creative designs that would solve this problem for us, and also some creative ways to look at how we could do it more cheaply than just replace the pavers with what's there. There are probably, when you look at pavers now, you got the big slabs of pavers that I think we could probably do some creative things and come up with a cheaper way than $750,000. But I will probably bring to you, as long as revenues stay up in the next couple months, some kind of a request for a allocation to put out an RFP and hire somebody to start designing. What I'd like to do is figure out if we can get a creative design that we like, and I would like them to break it into maybe $100,000 pieces. And similar to the interchange and our medians, maybe we do a piece each year. If revenues are down, maybe we skip a year. But even if it takes 5 to 6 years to slowly work on the plaza and the pavers, if we know what we're trying to do and we know we have a solid plan, then we can start talking about, does it make the list this year in the budget? So I will probably be bringing that to you later in the year. My guess is it's $15,000 to $25,000, depending on where things come in. But wanted to kind of run that by and make sure there weren't any serious objections. We're up pretty good on our revenues, and I think it's time to start figuring out what that is and what it's going to take to put it back together over time, so we do it responsibly. Go ahead, please. Lastly, we had an interesting week last week. Councilman Picard asked the law department to investigate whether we had a legal obligation to dispatch to repeat opiate overdose patients. We are working with the law department, and we will complete the legal research requested and forward that information to council at a later date. I do not have a definite date yet when that was done. It's a fairly complex issue. There are legal pieces, medical issues, how we operate with the hospital. There are a lot of pieces to this, so it's going to take a little time to make sure we give everybody thorough information. Councilman Card, as you're aware, is unable to attend tonight's meeting. Wanted to make a couple comments. Number one, this kind of went on its own life last week. We are not running out of money. We're tight. We are expending a large amount of public safety resources responding to this problem, as are other cities across the Ohio and across the country. We're okay, despite the media coverage. There is no 3 strikes policy that's been proposed or discussed by council as a group. This is one councilman's request for legal research and nothing more. No change to policy has been requested by City Council or voted on. Again, this is one council member's request for some legal research as to what our legal obligations were, and that's it. Nothing has changed in our EMS protocol at all. We are responding to every call that goes out. We are rendering aid as we need. We give Narcan every time it's medically appropriate. And again, that's not necessarily how it was portrayed in the media throughout the week. There is no 3 strikes in place in Middletown. It doesn't exist. It never has. And so wanted to make sure that people understood we were out today on more, and we're working hard, and we're doing what we're supposed to do. And there is no 3 strikes policy in Middletown. It doesn't exist. So, and with that, we'll move on. And
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Atkins?
I just had a comment for Mr. Atkins. On the potential RFP for the pavers,
yes,
I suspect you're going down this path as well, but I would ask if we do go down that route, that they consider other options than pavers, concrete, or grass, or...
and that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not the most creative. There's a lot of things I'm creative at, designing that kind of stuff. We need somebody who's good at that, and maybe get 2 or 3 proposals of ways to look at it. And then again, break them down into bite-sized pieces that we think at least if the revenues are going the way we expect, that each year we could do a little more of our median coming down from 122 and a piece of the pavers. Again, we'll do it in bite-sized pieces that we can handle each year.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to citizens' comments, guests, and organizations. I'd like to invite Middletown Municipal Judge Melinda Cook-Howard down. Sure, to the podium. Well, put you on the other side of the podium. Thanks for joining us, Your
I'm
Honor.
used to this side too. I want to thank you for allowing me a brief opportunity to speak. I know I'm not going to keep you here long. For those of you who do not know me well, you will want to know this about me. I am a hard worker. I'm an avid advocator for those things right and just, and a person who loves my community. As the new Middletown Municipal Court judge following Judge Wall's distinguished years of service to our community, I know that I have very big shoes to fill. While my 7.5 size shoe cannot fill the 13 size of Judge Wall, my commitment to work hard and to follow Judge Wall's lead in the service for, care of, and commitment to our community is the way I will fill the hole left by Judge Wall's passing. I want to ensure this council and the city that I am committed to continuing and expanding the court programs that Judge Wall began, including our Veterans Court, our domestic violence programming, and local-based treatment programs for alcohol and drugs. I further intend to reinstate the driver's intervention program so that we can assist those persons driving to also be valid and insured. I am committed to doing all within my power as judge to protect our public, assist law enforcement, and assist defendants to fight the drug epidemic. Our community and court are making strides, but it takes a willing participant, someone who wants to be clean, for the assistance we can offer to actually work. Even if I cannot put a person in jail for an overdose because they're only charged with a minor misdemeanor facing only a fine, we do offer them the information to reach out to do a walk-in appointment with community behavioral health. Every defendant who appears before me on an overdose is talked to about on that issue. And I hand them the handout and tell them that they can come back even if they lose that piece of paper, and we will give them the help even if I can't order them to get the help. I can say there are those who appear before me after an overdose that are ready and willing to get that help. When they are, we're there. We as a community need to continue to push these people to get the help they need so that they do not become a new statistic for our EMS, our fire, our police, and our court system. I am open to doing more and committed to searching out new avenues of proven methods of treatment and counseling to assist those that are in need and desire to be clean, to get the help they need and want. But for those persons who do not recognize they have a drug problem existing for them, the only help I can offer them is to incarcerate them when I can, and I will. I look forward to serving our community, to working with City Council in all matters of public safety and concern. My door is always open for anyone to come in and talk to about any legal matter that can assist our city and assist our community. And I open my door to you all as well as the public. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate you coming down. Welcome aboard. All right, and I've received one card this evening. I'd like to invite Miss Becca King down to the podium. Good evening. If we get your name and address for the record, please.
All right, it's Becca King. I'm at 2584 Madison Road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I came to make a comment about what Dan Picard said. So I'm very glad to hear what you've said and what you've shared, that you are committed to bringing solutions that will mean not just letting people go and really attacking the epidemic. And in light of what you'd said, I'd just like to add a couple things and ask a couple questions too, if that's all right. So one thing I just wanted to say is that I've known people who were heroin addicts, both during the addiction and afterwards. And if there's two things I know for sure, it is while someone is addicted, they don't have the mental power to consider consequences and prioritize them. And that no matter how harsh a disciplinary action is, when that person is in that state of mind, nothing is more important than the drug. Nothing can be more important than the drug. And I think because of that, it's extremely important that we have ways to pull people out of that. And of course, ways that are before that overdose and before that extreme, costly, painful, sometimes life-threatening circumstance. And I think that the only way we can do that as a community is to pull in people from all different areas so that our medical health professionals are able to not only respond to the overdoses, which is important, but also able to recognize people who might be at risk and pull them back from that path before it gets that bad. And I did a little research and found a couple programs through the state of Ohio that you may already be aware of. But basically, there is one that is Project Dawn, that is a program to train civilians to respond to those overdoses, just to relieve some of that pressure on the emergency medical services. And then another program I found that looked very interesting is called SPURT. I have to look it up again to find what exactly that stands for. Oh, yes. The Screening, Brief Intervention, and Referral to Treatment Project. Basically, that is a training program for mostly medical professionals, but it seems that it's open to other public employees. And what that does is trains people to recognize those risk factors so that they're able to pull people back. And I was going to say earlier, but got a little sidetracked. The other thing that I know from knowing people who have been in addictions is that they can recover. They absolutely can recover. I have known an individual that was at one point in life addicted to heroin, and 5 years later, after rehabilitation, was working at a children's program, helping underprivileged kids get back onto the right track much earlier in life. And I want to see more of that in our community, and I want to know that our city council, every major stakeholder in the community is doing what they can to pull people towards that. And so I guess what I'd like to know from you all is, what plans do you have in place for reacting to the opioid epidemic, and what collaborations are there between the different sectors in the city, or even between our city and others?
Sure. Well, we're not set up to take questions and answers in this format,
Sorry.
but no, that's okay. The city manager can follow up with you. I will say we have had a series of heroin summits that brought together a lot of providers, and we've got information on our website, and I'm sure Mr. Atkins can follow up with you on that. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming down this evening. And with that, I've got no other cards, so we can move on to our consent agenda. Ms. Skank?
For consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from June the 20th, 2017, to receive and file board and commission minutes from the Board of Health from May 9th, 2017, and to receive and file oaths of office for John Dennis, Macklin Bray, and Robert Copeland Jr.
All right, do we have a motion for the approval of the issues and actions as listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Ms. Bronston?
Yes.
All right, and we have 2 motion items this evening.
To receive and file the 2018 tax budget request.
All right, this was the subject of our public hearing, and Mr. Atkins has reported. Any other questions from council? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file the 2018 budget request.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Bronston?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
All right, and our last motion item.
To transfer a city-owned lot located at 1711 Carolina Street to David Boudris through a mow-to-own program.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, we had previously demolished a blighted home located at 1711 Carolina Street. We've been approached by the neighbor, David Butters, who resides at 1715 Carolina, and he hopes to acquire the property from us to expand his side yard. He has already started maintaining the lot. He will continue to do so through our moto agreement. If there are any issues during that agreement where he doesn't live up to his thing, he just simply doesn't get title until he's met the obligations. We are recommending that you go ahead and allow us to transfer that under the moto-own agreement.
Okay, very good. Any questions from Mr. Atkins? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfer of city-owned lot located at 1711 Carolina Street to David Budris through a moto-own program.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan?
Yes.
Ms. Bronston?
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our council comments this evening. Start with Mr. Bohannon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank everyone that was involved in this weekend's activities. As Mr. Atkins has stated, it went off very well, no incidents, and it was very enjoyable. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moon?
I just echo Mr. Bohannon and want to thank Doug and his staff for all their work. It was pulled off very well, and of course, Atrium for the sponsorship of the fireworks. That's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Bronston?
I guess ditto. I did want to address some of the emails that I received regarding the heroin epidemic, and of course, Ms. Becca, who's here this evening. We have had a number of heroin summits. I don't know if any of you attended them. I think total we've had about 10 over the past 2 years. A lot of our comments were discussed there in those summit meetings. And our councilman who posed his opinion at our last meeting is just that, his opinion. And I don't believe he attended those summits, so I don't think he had an opportunity maybe to share. So I just wanted to say that publicly, that we've been working on a number of angles where we can do something in our community. Part of it was education, intervention, treatment, post-treatment, working with our youth. Mr. Atkins did a presentation here for the council meeting. So if you'd like to go back and review some of those on YouTube, feel free to do so. Most of our conversations about the issues and legislation that we're brought and discussed here at our meetings, a lot of that we take care of by email, by phone calling. And so when people ask us, why don't we talk more in our conversations here at City Council, you're free to look up our workbooks. They are available for you on our website. We've been very transparent. And so if you'd like to look along with us to see what we're talking about, what we're voting on, please look on our website. All the information is there. So I just kind of wanted to address some of the phone calls, the emails, the voice messages that I've personally received, and I wanted to state it publicly, that we've been very transparent, and should you need us to discuss things in detail, usually we get with Doug, and sometimes Doug brings those items to his city manager's reports. So I just kind of wanted to make that comment and clarify a few things and some of the ideas that people have about our city council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bronson. I too would just like to reiterate the comments regarding the just great job done by city staff as well as the number of volunteers we had involved. I think the parade went off very well, and that's a monumental effort that involved city staff organizing a whole lot of different parade participants, and I think everyone really enjoyed it. Great fun time, and the weather was certainly exceptional. Great time again at the concert and fireworks. Again, it's good to have the support and sponsorship, and good to see people out. And I like the idea of doing it on the 3rd. Kind of beats the crowd and allows people to take in maybe some other sites on the 4th too. And I'd also like to mention we do have a First Friday coming up downtown this weekend. I'll be here before we know it. Again, great to see some good things happening downtown and really throughout the city, and certainly encouraged by that, and hopefully we'll see it continue. So with that, Ms. Cohen, we can move to our legislation for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 8 items for consideration this evening. 4 are asked as an emergency. So asked of the consider a motion to waive charter provisions requiring 2 readings and immediate enactment for ordinance O 2017-25, ordinance O 2017-26, ordinance O 2017-27, and ordinance O 2017-28.
I make a motion to waive the charter, which requires reading on 2 separate days, and to declare the following ordinances as emergency measures. Ordinance 02017-25, -26, -27, and -28 to be declared an emergency, to be read one time only.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, Ms. Camp, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Bronston,
Yes?
Mr. Bohannon,
Yes?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan.
Yes.
Thank you. First matter for consideration this evening is ordinance O 2017-25, an ordinance authorizing a contract with B.D. Morgan and Company and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay, we had discussion on this last time. Mr. Atkins, anything to add?
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Camp, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bohannon,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Abstain.
Mayor Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Bronston,
Yes.
That's,
Motion fails.
yeah. You have a you're conflicted?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll have to bring it back for the 18th.
we'll do that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Next matter will be ordinance O 2017-26, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $2,400,000 for the purpose of paying the costs of refunding bonds previously issued by the city for the purpose of paying costs of various infrastructure projects and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Your Honor, the next 3 ordinances, O 2017, 26, 27, and 28, are all refunding of bonds from 2005, 2008, and 2009, totaling $13,310,000. By refunding these, and we have the chance to save almost $1 million in interest over the life of the bond, and so this is a chance for us to save general fund money and hopefully redirect it to better uses.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Atkins? I know we had an email update on this earlier this week. Okay. Very good. So that's 26 or 26. So, Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Mulligan,
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon,
Yes.
Ms. Bronston,
Yes.
Next matter is similar ordinance number O 2017-27, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $6,070,000 for the purpose of paying costs of refunding bonds previously issued by the city for the purpose of paying costs of various infrastructure projects and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or comments? Ms. Skank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Bronston,
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
And the next of these ordinances will be ordinance O 2017-28, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of bonds in the maximum principal amount of $4,660,000 for the purpose of paying the cost of refunding bonds previously issued by the city for the purpose of paying the city's portion of the costs of improving Interstate 75 and State Route 122 in cooperation with the Director of Transportation of the State of Ohio by constructing turn lanes in each direction on Interstate 75 and widening State Route 122 from the intersection of Dixie Highway to the East Corporation limit of the city, together with all necessary appurtenances and related improvements, and including any necessary acquisition of interest in real property therefore, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Okay, discussion or comments? Ms. Kank, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Mulligan,
Yes.
Ms. Bronston,
Yes.
Mr. Bohannon,
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Next matter is here for first reading. Ordinance O 2017-29, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an extension of the current contract with Smart Bill Limited for the printing and mailing of water bills.
Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor, the city mails approximately 21,000 water bills each month. In 2009, we bid this service out, and at that time, Smart Bill was the lowest and best bidder. They have done excellent work for us over the past several years, and they are willing to extend the contract for one more year at the same price, and staff is recommending that we adopt that.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Atkins?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I had a call from Miss Rosaline Lindsay regarding the water bills, and she was inquiring about advertising, especially for the recycling and some of the things that we do around town. She doesn't have a computer, possibly does not receive the newspaper, and many other people that she knows. Is it possible? And if so, is there an extra charge every time we add on different ads for the city?
I believe we have so many characters, right, that we can put on the water bill. And do we have a policy on what can and can't go on there? There is the ability to add so many characters. There's a small space at the bill that we can add so many characters on. We've done that for letting people know certain events and certain things have closed and roads are closed or whatever, changes in bills, whatever's gonna come. I don't know if we've ever used it as what I would call true advertising. I think we have done maybe a little bit with recycling and things like that, but
Yeah.
I will look into it.
I recall in the past that we used to do a newsletter of sorts, information sheet. I mean,
We
I
do.
mine electronically, and that's
Yeah.
maybe a way to leverage that to promote some things. But
Yeah.
sometimes there's a bigger lead time required for that than
Right.
necessary. But certainly
Yeah.
good thought.
I just had one question as well. Since it's been almost 9 years since this has gone out to bid, I realize prices, we're not paying anything in 2017 dollars that we paid in 2008 dollars, but I'm wondering if at some point it might be time to put it out again. It's been quite a while.
I think that's fair. I agree.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Next matter will similarly be ordinance O 2017-30, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an extension of the current contract with Smart Bill Limited for the printing and mailing of tax bills.
Mr. Atkins, anything else to add?
Writing notes here.
Okay.
We also use Smart Bill and have for several years in mailing out all of our tax bills. They, again, were the successful bidder a few years ago. They have performed well, and they have also agreed to extend for an additional year at the current price. Staff is, at least for this year, recommending that we go ahead and continue with them.
Any other questions for Mr. Atkins? All right, thank you.
Next matter, number 7, will be ordinance O 2017-31, an ordinance creating the position of communications coordinator in the unclassified service of the city of Middletown and establishing a pay rate for said position.
Okay, Mr. Atkins?
Yes, Your Honor. As you're aware, a couple years ago, we created a communications intern position. It was kind of a test case to see if we could start developing our own public relations and try to get our message out. And we hired Carly Berman to fill that position. It was created as a 2-year trial to be evaluated at the end of that period. We have been looking at that, and Carly, I think I've told all of you, is in the process of leaving to go back to school and become an attorney. So We have a chance now to make some changes. She's done a great job in setting up a lot of the platform for what we use, our Instagram and Facebook, all our social media. She handles the water bill insert and a number of other things, press releases, both for public safety and for public works. And so we've got a nice platform now that she has developed for us. So I think, as we've discussed it, Jennifer, Ike and I have talked about, the next stage is to take it from functional to marketing and brand. And so with that, we're going to need probably someone with a little more experience. We are recommending that we upgrade this to a communications coordinator position and make it a permanent position. We would expect 3 to 5 years of experience. Pay would probably be about $10,000 more than the intern position. The first step would be to actually create the position under the pay and benefits ordinance, which is why this is in front of you now. We would advertise this position in a month or so, probably fill it somewhere around September. With the vacancy between Carly and when we actually hire, we shouldn't need any additional funds for 2017. We would add this to the budget for 2018 as a normal part of the budget process.
Any questions for Mr. Atkins? Okay, thank you.
Finally, we have number 8, Resolution R 2017-13, a resolution consenting to and authorizing an amendment to the Liberty Township Joint Economic Development District contract to add territory to the district and declaring an emergency. No action is requested until July 18th.
Okay, that was the subject of public hearing. Any questions or comments on that? All right, with that, council will be in recess until July 18th, 5:30 in these chambers. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Your Honor.